Now what will it be? Death or exile?
All right, we're gonna start with the...
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to.
Should we not follow the advice of the galactically stupid?
You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Worst part of it is they're gonna blame us for the whole thing. And they can't have people knowing the truth. We're the the cover up. Don't forget, we're the Exiles.
Very well. Death by exile.
Welcome to another installment of the Film Exiles podcast. Tonight, the Exiles review Universal Pictures' revival of the legendary Halloween franchise, Halloween 2018, with the return of Jamie Lee Curtis. I am not well versed in horror films, slasher films, nor the Halloween franchise, but I am lucky enough to have two Exiles with me who are. Sal, how you doing tonight, brother?
I'm doing well. Can't wait to talk about this spooky ass film.
I'm glad that we had the opportunity to pull you away from Red Dead Redemption 2 to get you on this podcast. And also we got James. James, how you doing?
Not too bad, man. Not too bad. Now I noticed you mentioned Universal Pictures, but I think we probably want to give more credit to Blumhouse Productions, right? They've been killing it in the mainstream sort of horror films in the last couple of years, right? With The Purge, Sinister, Insidious, Get Out. Even Upgrade and Split, and now this, right? So
yeah, you're absolutely right. It is Blumhouse, but it's distributed by Universal.
Distributed, of course.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. You're absolutely right. Blumhouse gets all the credit.
Yeah, man, Jason Blum, is just killing it with these movies.
He really is. Like he found what his studio was good at, and they just keep going down that well.
They're not perfect, They got that garbage Jennifer Lopez movies there, the Boy Next Door.
Oh, that was Blumhouse?
Yeah,
I had no idea. Well,
they have a crappy one like once a year.
Yeah, did you guys like Slight?
I haven't seen that. I've heard it's good.
I haven't seen it.
Okay, yeah, that's the same studio that did Upgrade. It's that Blumhouse.
Blumhouse Tilt. It's their
Blumhouse
action.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's their action.
The more action oriented.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, let's not get too far off course.
10 seconds into the podcast.
This is who we are. So before we start talking about Halloween 2018, I wanted to take a few moments and ask you guys about how familiar you are with the franchise altogether. James, have you been a fan of this franchise? Which film is your favorite? Just give us a quick rundown on your thoughts and your feelings about the franchise altogether.
Well, I'm actually somewhat of a newer fan of the franchise. I'm a big fan of the franchise for sure. My first memory of the franchise even existing was back in '98 when Halloween H2O came out, because that was in the heyday of the sort of horror revival that came with Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and then they were pushing H2O, which was written by Kevin Williamson, the same guy who did Scream, right? So that was my first exposure to it. I got into horror big time a couple of years ago, and I bought the collection, the Halloween collection from Scream Factory. If you look online, that collection goes for like $800 now. They have a smaller version of the collection, but it doesn't come with any of the special features. It doesn't come with the director's cut of Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. But if I had to say my favorite movies in the series, I'd say the newest one is up there. Obviously the original, but one of my favorites is actually Halloween 3, which has absolutely nothing to do with Michael Myers. It was when
he's not in that one, right?
He's not in it. It's there's a little cameo where the movie's actually playing on TV in the background.
Oh, really?
But and Jamie Lee Curtis has a cameo in it as a voice on the phone. Mm-hmm. But it was when John Carpenter originally wanted the Halloween franchise to be an anthology series, as opposed to
having Michael come back all the time,
over and over and over and over again. Yeah. So I think if it had gone the anthology route instead of having a Halloween 2, the series may be more well regarded. Like it's a classic series. It's well regarded in general, but we wouldn't have 7 shitty sequels or reboots.
So you're talking
Uh,
about 4, 5, 6, and Halloween 20 years later, the one with Busta Rhymes. Is that the one? Halloween 20
yeah,
years? Is that
Halloween.
what?
No, there's H2O with
There's
Josh
H.
Hartnett, and
Okay.
then there's Halloween Resurrection
Correction.
with
Okay.
Yeah,
Is that the one
Busta
with
Rhymes,
H2O
Jamie?
is not that bad, but then there's Resurrection.
which is awful.
Yeah,
Resurrection, is that the one where they kill Jamie Lee Curtis at the beginning? That's the one, right?
Yeah, that's the
Okay.
one.
Okay.
But
All right.
here's the thing. Just a quick history for you. There's actually there's like 4 timelines in this
Okay.
series, and it's almost like Star Trek. You know how they rebooted? Well, they didn't reboot the series, but it was an alternate timeline.
Mhm.
And it's not even done on purpose. It's just how they did the series. So if you think about it, there's Halloween 1, Halloween 2, Halloween 4, 5, 6, and then that timeline ends. And there's Halloween 3, which is its own fucking timeline. And then there's a new one where it's just Halloween 1, 2. It ignores 4, 5, 6. And then the third movie is Halloween H2O, and then Halloween Resurrection. And
So
then there's the reboots by Rob Zombie, sorry.
Okay.
And then there's the new timeline, Halloween 1, and then Halloween 2018.
Okay, so this one is a direct sequel to Halloween, the first one, the original. So
That's correct.
they're approaching it as though all of those other sequels never took place.
Never ever happened. There are
Okay,
hints.
great.
There are hints that or like Easter eggs, I should say, to
Okay.
the previous movies, but that's it.
All right, cool. Sal, what about you? Tell me about your experience with the Halloween franchise.
So for me, I haven't always been a horror fan. I'm actually like a big scaredy cat. I just kind of push through it and just get high off of the adrenaline. I always find it to be a fun experience. And just later in my life with this horror resurgence that we've gotten from like James Wan and from Blumhouse has been a real joy. But I believe it was like I must have been in like my early teens. And back when AMC, the channel, before it, was like trying to be like this premiere television, like with all these Breaking Bad and Mad Men, it used to be just one of those channels that played movies all day on repeat. And they had a Halloween marathon one year, and I just watched them all like consecutively every day leading up to the actual holiday. And so that's how I got into the whole series. And back then I was really invested and like on the edge of my seat, waiting for what's to happen next. But in retrospect, like they do kind of decline and like get like I said earlier, there's H2O is not that bad, and then you got Resurrection, which is a bunch of dog shit.
Hey, man.
Motherfucker.
Dude, it's hilarious.
I actually remember watching Resurrection. It was a summer way back in the day, and I had a few friends spending the night, and one of them really loved horror movies, and I remember picking up Resurrection. I didn't think it was that bad, but then again, I was never a horror aficionado, so I wasn't really sure what I was looking at. I had nothing to compare it to.
Well, I hadn't watched it in probably since it came out, and I just watched it about a month ago before the movie came out. I just rewatched all of them in one huge sitting, and it was in the time when reality TV was becoming huge in the United States and around the world.
I remember that. Yeah.
So they went with that angle. Problem is the web cameras, the webcams that they're using in the movie are so fucking bad. You can't even tell 90% of what's going on in the entire movie.
Okay, I do not remember that. This was a long time for me.
It's like going to YouTube and watching a video, but it only has 320.
Oh jeez.
Yeah.
That does sound horrible.
No, 240.
Exactly.
Okay.
240, even worse.
Okay. Well, let's get started and talk. Give our non-spoiler thoughts about Halloween 2018. James, why don't you get us started?
When the hype started coming out of TIFF early, what was it, September? It started getting me sort of really hyped up for the movie. I'd been hyped up before because you could sort of tell when it came to H2O, even Jamie Lee Curtis said that it was a paycheck movie for her, but you could tell it was a little bit different here. You could tell the way she was talking about it. It wasn't just hyping up the movie, right? You hear celebrities all the time saying, oh, yeah, it's a great opportunity and a great movie and this and that, but it's a paycheck movie. But the way she was talking about it, how they approach certain themes in the movie and this and that, it was being taken seriously. And the fact that the writers and the director were saying that they were going to ignore all the previous movies because it was just too much. It was a hodgepodge of conflicting storylines and this and that they were just going to go in clean. and follow the first one as a template. And just watching the trailer, you could tell they were really taking the material seriously. And actually, one of the main things that got me really excited was how good the mask looked compared to the first one. It looked like the same mask, but older and used up. If you ever watch any of the older Halloween movies, the masks go from terrible to god awful. Even in H2O at one point, there's a CGI mask because they didn't know what to do with it. So, um, I, I don't know. They just built it up really well. I was really pumped for the movie. Well, what I got when I saw it was exactly what I wanted from the movie. It paid its respects to the original and sort of carved itself a sort of new direction without relying too much on the original. Now, you guys know what's his name there? Stan Winston. You guys know Stan Winston, right? So a couple of years ago when he was talking about Terminator 2, one of the things he said why it was so successful is that you got to give your audience a little bit of what they loved in the first movie and then give them a little bit of something new. And I think that's exactly what they did with Halloween. They gave fans of the franchise exactly what they wanted. They gave it a new sort of twist on it. Like, for example, there was no victim per se. In this one, the victim is actually hunting Michael Myers at the same time as Michael is hunting her, right? Usually in these movies, we never have the person trying to hunt the bad guy, right? They're trying to run away. They're trying to survive. They're trying to figure out how to survive, right? So I just love the movie overall. Is it better than the original? I don't know if I'll ever be able to answer that one simply because that movie's 40 years old. It's ingrained in pop culture and all this stuff. So it'll be very difficult to get an unbiased answer on whether or not it's a better movie. And you couldn't ask somebody who hasn't seen the original movie and watched them back to back because they will watch the movie from the 1970s with a little bit of rose-colored lenses, right? It'll be hard for them to. I went to go see the original movie a week before the remake came out in theaters, and there's a couple of people in the theater who obviously hadn't seen the movie, and they're giggling and laughing at a couple of parts. So we're in a different era, so it's hard to say whether or not it is a better film or not.
Okay, I respect that. Sal, what about you? What were your thoughts on Halloween 2018?
As a fan of like the majority of the series, I agree with what James said. There's a lot of nice Easter eggs and callbacks to certain situations that happened in previous films that was really enjoyable to see, and just to know that that the creators were thinking about us. I also thought that the film was really well made, and I love the look of the film and the look of Michael himself, mask on and mask off, and I thought that this film had the most mask off of the entire series, even though they didn't give you the full-fledged face. But I also felt like some of it was, and I agree with what James said, there are some new bits, some new angles, but I also felt like some of this was kind of retreading and just relying. And I know there's like horror tropes, and I respect formulas in franchises and in genres, but some of this just felt like the same old from the series. I did really enjoy this film on the first viewing.
Okay, great. So, like I mentioned before, I am not a fan of the franchise. I did see Halloween Resurrection, but again, I don't remember that movie at all. So going into this, I had no point of reference. I had nothing. I had never even seen the original. To this day, I haven't seen it. So I think that I came in with a fresh new perspective, and I really enjoyed it. I really liked it. I thought the performances were great. I thought that the tension was awesome. Thought some of the cinematography was very iconic. Some of the shots of Michael in particular are very great to just look at. I thought that the score added to a lot of the scenes without taking away anything that was going on screen.
Yeah.
I liked a lot of what the film had to say, and about how even though it's been 40 years, some events still stay on you like a stain on your soul, and we can see the effects that traumatic experiences can have on people. And even though that I had never seen the original, I could feel all of that in large part thanks to Jamie Lee Curtis's performance as Laurie Strode. She deserves a lot of credit for the work that she put in here. All in all, I think it's a very good movie, and I really did enjoy it. I am planning on seeing it again, And I am actually even considering going and watching all of the Halloween movies because if if any of them are anything like this, I definitely feel like I've missed out on some very interesting films.
No, absolutely. Sal was talking about the tropes, right? But
Yeah.
you almost, not to make excuses for the movie, but you almost got to give it a bit of slack because, Halloween was the prototype slasher movie, right? It was the first one to start doing certain things and creating those tropes, which back then weren't tropes, right? Everything was copying them.
It was like
Although,
revolutionary.
although Manu, you must have been the one trope that not just Halloween movies, that horror movies have had for years and years and years and years and years did not happen in this movie. And the black kid did not die first.
Oh,
That kid was the best part of the movie.
yeah, that was
Kid
hilarious.
made me laugh so much.
Let's just jump over the spoiler wall and start getting into the performances of Halloween. So, if you haven't seen the movie yet, go see it, and then you can continue from this point on. And if you have, or if you don't care about spoilers, stay on while we discuss it. James, which performances do you think stood out?
Okay, well the kid that I forget what her name was. Was it Vicky who was babysitting him?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, so the kid that was being babysit, I don't know where they found this kid, but it was honestly, let's move
His
beyond the
name-
main characters.
His name is Jibril Nantambu. His name.
Bril Natambu?
Yeah.
Okay, he looks like
Yeah.
one of this kid from one of the memes I've seen online.
He's
100%.
He's actually on Preacher.
Is he on Preacher?
Yeah,
Okay.
he's on Preacher.
Well, you know what? He was in the movie for maybe what, 5 minutes? He stole the show in those 5 minutes. 100%. Everybody in my theater was loving him.
Yeah, I really really enjoyed him. I'm not gonna lie, I really did. He was really funny.
I think the character who played the Shape, I think Nick Castle had a bit of a smaller presence in the movie, but they also got James Jude Courtney, and I think playing that character is very. It's not just a guy in a mask walking around. The movements are deliberate, and if you watch Halloween H2O, that's not Michael Myers. You see him just walking around. You can see his eyes. It's just a terrible rendition of Michael Myers. So if I tell you to watch, watch the original, you saw the new one, and then watch Halloween H2O, and you'll know exactly what I mean. So the two actors who played the Shape, phenomenal.
I did appreciate that Michael is so efficient in his movements. It seems like nothing is wasted. Everything has a purpose to it.
Absolutely.
Everything is. He's just a killing machine.
Oh, absolutely. I was glad to see Will Patton in the movie. He's not in a lot of movies lately, but in my youth growing up, he was in Armageddon. He was in.
He was great in Armageddon.
Remember the Titans as well with Denzel, and he's just sort of a sort of warm presence in a movie. So it was very good to see him there. And you know what? Jamie Lee Curtis brought her A game again, and it was great to see her in the role in a movie that wasn't H2O or Halloween Resurrection. I think everybody brought their A game. For me, Judy Greer, she's Judy Greer. Like I can take her or leave it. She did have one standout moment. I won't say what it was, but I think we all know what that standout moment was.
Well, over the spoiler wall, you can say whatever.
Oh,
you
we're at the
want
spoiler.
now.
All right, so at that moment in the movie where she's in the basement and she's crying and she's got the rifle
Yeah.
up, and no matter how much she condemns her mother for the training that she gave her, and how she made her live her life for the first 12 years before she was taken away by CAS, that training was rooted deep in her to the point that it clicked on the moment she was in that survive or die, that
Yeah.
flight or fly moment, and then she's like, "Oh, I can't do this, and then Michael showed up, and she's like, "Surprise, motherfucker!" Whatever it was she said, I was like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah. I
like,
didn't see that. I didn't see that one coming. Actually, that one took
I
me by
didn't.
surprise.
I didn't see that one coming, right? But the rest of the movie, like she killed it in that moment, literally,
Yeah.
like no pun intended. But for the earlier parts of the movie, I was just like, man, you playing the same girl from Jurassic World, man. Like, take it or leave it.
She's the mom from Ant-Man.
And Ant-Man as well.
Yeah,
She's
exactly.
always the same. She's always
But it's the same thing. It's the same
Hey,
thing.
she's consistent, man. And in Hollywood now, if you can bring the same thing to every role you play, I mean, you're gonna get called back.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, she brings that consistency. Sal, what about you? Who did you think stood out?
Well, yeah, I'd have to echo everything that James said about the shape himself. I thought the two actors did a great job, and you really can recognize the character just based on his movements. And I did because, and it's funny how James brought up what was it, Resurrection. He's just that's not Michael Myers at all. But
Well,
yeah, these deliberate, efficient movements, like you guys said, I completely agree with that. And also I like to echo the Will Patton because I watched Remember the Titans a lot when I was younger, and just seeing him in movies
oh yeah,
anytime
yeah,
now.
yeah. He was in that. You're right.
Yeah, so
It
just
was.
seeing him and being the officer and the one that was like the first on call from way back in the day was real nice. Too bad he doesn't make it through the entire film. That was like a real like a twist and a turn that I didn't see coming. And then yeah, the whole Judy Greer is the same old, same old. Despite the one moment, I really agree with that. And I thought the what did you guys think about the new girl? You
I
know,
was.
the
I was.
third generation.
That's actually what I was about to say. Like she's. Allison is not getting any love from either of you, is she?
I was gonna say that I thought that she was pretty good.
She was very good. She was very, very good. Like, again, I don't know this actress. Her name is Andy Matashak. Matachak. I don't know how to
Yeah, I don't know
pronounce
how to
that
say
name.
that.
She's done a few things. She was in Replicate. Oh, that's coming out next year, and a movie called Underground in 2016.
Ooh.
No, it's not a movie. It's a WGN series called Underground. She's been in a few things. I had no idea who she was when the movie started, but she won me over very quickly. She has these like very expressive eyes, and I think that that's really necessary for this type of film because you have to like emote so much fear and anxiety, and there's like a lot of close-ups that are used, and I think that she was really up to the task.
I think I don't think just anybody can play these roles, but I do think they're a lot easier to cast than dramas and stuff like that. So I think she did her job well. She did her job very well. I think she could have easily been interchanged with another actress. I don't know who, but they picked a great actress to play her character.
So I wanted to ask you guys this: is there when you see her, do you get a vibe of a young Jamie Lee Curtis from the original Halloween? Is that something that you feel like they were going for, that they were trying to replicate or touch on?
Mm,
I don't think so. I think she was a little bit more confident in who she was, just naturally as a teenager compared to Jamie Lee Curtis. And Jamie Lee Curtis, in the original one, she's a little bit of afraid of sex and boys and this and that. Ben Tramer. I don't know if Sal, if you remember when her friend's trying to hook her up with a friend and
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that. She's like Ben Tramer. Oh no, and like, but this girl, she's ready.
She
to
was
go
like she was like mild mannered reporter Clark Kent. Like she was like that female version.
Exactly. And this one they sort of, and it's obviously I feel like something from our current
Yeah.
social political climate or whatever, but they were doing stuff where she's going to be dressed up as a male and her boyfriend was going to be dressed up as a woman and this and that, right? So
Yeah.
they're more comfortable in who they are and their representation of modern day teens.
I
That makes
appreciate
sense.
that. Okay, I appreciate that. Sal, I cut you off. Is there you were talking about your favorite performances. Anybody else you'd like to add?
Uh, who played the doctor?
Haluk Bill Jenner. He was
Yeah,
Dr. Sartain.
yeah. It wasn't the greatest performance in the world, but it was a nice, solid side character
Yeah.
who controlled the plot for a bit there, and I thought he did a good job. And of course, I have to mention Jamie Lee. She knocked it out of the park. That was some real top notch acting from her, and I wish I could see more of her. Do you guys know if she's doing anything else like these days?
Well, she was on Scream. Well, she was on Scream Queens. What,
Yeah,
a year or
and she
two
was
ago?
she was very good on Screen Queens actually, and I love that they picked her to be in that movie in that TV show.
Yeah, I'm just taking a look at her IMDb. She's still doing stuff. Scream Queens, a show called New Girl. She got a movie coming out, or maybe it already came out. An Acceptable Loss. She got 3 new movies in pre-production. So
Yeah,
it looks like
Okay.
she's keeping busy.
yeah, I think she plays one of the characters' mothers on New Girl. Well, I already spoke about Andy Matichak. And yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis, she knocked it out the park. The scene at the restaurant when she comes in late, I think that's just some grade A acting. I think she was just so believable and so heartbreaking in that scene, and I just love seeing how these past 40 years have really shaken her to her very core. I really enjoyed her performance. Dr. Sartain was. I didn't know if I should laugh at him sometimes because he just seems so like over the top. But
Oh
I
yeah, he
love
was hamming it up.
but I love everything that he was saying about Michael. Like, oh my god, like he's pure evil. All of that dialogue.
You get that
I
from the original movies too,
okay.
with his original psychiatrist. He's
With
pure evil.
Dr.
I think
Loomis.
yeah,
Dr.
Dr.
Loomis,
Loomis.
he's
Oh
pure
yeah,
evil, pure
yeah,
evil.
yeah. Because I think Jamie Lee Curtis even calls him. He's the new Doctor. You're the new Loomis, right? I think she calls him.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I really enjoyed him and all of that. Like, cause he really cause I think like for somebody like me who had never seen like any of the originals, he's very important because he makes he shows you what. So he's really there to show you how dangerous Michael is. Like some guy in a mask. He's this entity. He is evil and darkness and revenge walking on 2 feet. So even though he was hamming it up, he really did a great job of solidifying Michael as more than just a human being.
Yes.
Yeah, and also usually I find teenagers in movies very, very, very irritating. I don't understand why they write them like this so often, but I actually didn't mind most of them here, except Allison's boyfriend. I thought that he was just
He's a
a weird.
douchebag.
Yeah, but I really liked Vicky. I thought she was sweet, and like even Dave was kind of cool. Like I kind of felt bad when they died, but I kind of felt no. I think Dave was the boyfriend, right?
Well,
He was Vicky's.
he was Vicky's boyfriend, yeah.
Okay,
And he got that tattoo on his arm.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, that shit was hilarious.
yeah. I actually like those two. I felt bad when they died, and also the little fat friend. Not well, you. The boyfriend's friend who tried to hook up
Who tried
with
to
her,
kiss her?
like I mean,
Yeah.
come on, dude, like really.
I felt a little bit bad for him though, too. Though I
He's
felt
like,
bad for him, like
you deserve. Like, what did he think was gonna happen? But
I know. But then he's sitting there like a sad sack of shit, and the light keeps coming on and off and on and on, and then
yes,
like,
I
oh my
love
god,
that scene. That scene is
I
That was
thought
so
that
great.
was a
good.
great use of motion sensors.
it was great.
It was. So overall, I actually really enjoyed the cast, like to the point where I felt bad seeing some of them die. But not for some reason. But Dr. Sartain, I did not feel bad. I was too busy laughing.
Okay. I'll talk about it in my favorite parts.
Okay, so let's
movie?
wait. Let's just hold it till then. Okay.
But one of the things I liked about this movie is that they didn't conform to stereotypes. I was watching the movie and I was like, "Where's the jock? Where's the hot girl?
Yes.
Where's the nerdy friend?"
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
kind of what I was saying. Yeah, that they wrote the teenagers in a more in a more what's what I'm looking for
Natural?
in a more natural way. But I think again that reflects our time. I feel like there's still those tropes that we see in real life today, but I feel like high schools today are much different than they were 40 years ago.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Even 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
All right, so let's move on. Let's talk about the themes. James, what do you think? What themes do you feel were tackled in Halloween 2018?
Basically, just the main one was the PTSD, right? Jamie Lee
Yeah.
Curtis was quoted as saying, all these movies show, they celebrate the violence and stuff like that, but they never celebrate, or I think that celebrating the violence, but they never examine the effects of that violence on the people afterhand. Sometimes they sort of skim over it. You have Scream 2 where she becomes a bit more of a recluse, but then within 5 minutes, she's back in action and all this fucking shit, right? Like, in this movie, you just see how it's stuck with her like through 40 years and how it's ruined two of her marriages. It's ruined her family. And, and this is, I talked to some people and they thought that, it was a little bit ridiculous that, she would carry this on for 40 years. But man, you see some of these people carrying in real life, you see people carrying, their baggage from a simple breakup for like 10, 20 years. It can't get past it. So imagine this, where some guy tried to kill you and killed, three of your friends. No, the effects of it are really are real, and I think the movie explored them as best as they could. Obviously, they got to get to the point, they got to get to the movie, they got to get to the killing and Michael Myers and stuff like that. But I think this movie did a better job of dealing with those themes than any sort of previous movies.
Okay, Sal, do you have anything to add?
I think everything James just touched on is I completely agree with it all, and it's I feel it's all very evident in the film, and I also love that the movie touched on kind of like what bloodlust and kind of like the possibility of the genetics, I guess, with it because of like the very I think the very last shot of the movie, and we're past the spoiler wall. I don't know if you guys remember, but like the very last shot of the movie, I feel like is trying to say something very deliberate about the family and
Oh,
about
where she's holding the knife, eh? She's still
yeah,
holding the knife and it's all bloodied.
yeah, no, I feel like something like that, especially like with what is it, the curse and the revenge of the ones James, the ones with
Yeah,
the
one, two,
cousin,
4, 5, and 6.
yeah,
It's
but the
the
one
it's
where
the
he has the
druid
little
curse.
cousin, yeah.
The druid curse, yeah. With her name is Jamie in the movie.
Yeah, yeah, where he has like the little cousin and she's trying to connect with him and stuff like that. And it's definitely also the one that's with Paul Rudd is definitely, but it's not so much the Druid curse, especially in this one. They didn't really want to make it a supernatural thing with Michael. But
Yeah,
yeah, I really enjoyed like the possibility of them exploring. And it's kind of in the movie because with the doctor too, he's trying to see what it feels like to kill someone with that the kind of bloodlust. What can it lead to?
yeah.
So I enjoyed that aspect of the film.
I agree with the both of you. I thought PTSD was I liked like I said before. I thought that Jamie Lee Curtis's scene where she walks into the restaurant and she breaks down. I mean, how can you not feel that? How could you not understand all of that, all the grief that she's been through? Like, not only did this person, this thing, try to kill her, but everybody that she cared about. And ever since that night, she's been preparing herself, her daughter, and her family for more and more tragedy. Like James said, like sometimes you can't get over a breakup. Imagine trying to have to deal with this constantly and how it affected her through every single stage of her life and how she's seen by some people as crazy, even though it's ridiculous to think so. That I felt that there should have been more understanding from especially her daughter. I understand that she wanted to get away from that and have a normal life. I understand that desire, but again, I just think that there should have been more understanding for what her mother was going through. And I think that is one of the reasons also why she has this inability to move on. Michael still being alive is definitely a cause of concern and great fear because she more than anybody knows what he is capable of. She always expected him to escape, which is why she always wanted to kill him.
You hit the nail on the head. Like, I don't like to talk very much about what I do for work, but I see people, the moment you start talking to them, if you weren't were what I do, you just dismiss them. You'd be like, this person's, a nutball or this or that, or like, what's their problem? And then you dig into their history. They've been sexually assaulted, or they've been a victim of domestic abuse, or when they were young, they saw something horrible. And I see it every single day. I hear it every single day. And so it isn't too hard for me to buy into this 40 years of PTSD, right? So
Yeah, that's
I think it's
exactly what it
something that
is.
they really handled really well.
I agree. I agree. I agree. And like you said, you see it, and sometimes it's not even something so tragic and daunting. Sometimes small events in our lives can carry this huge impact within us that we can't always shake as quickly as the rest of the world thinks we should.
Exactly.
And here you see it here because again I understand the daughter wanting to move on and wanting to have a normal and real life, and wanting her mother to accept the past and move on. But it's not always as easy as it sounds. It's hard to let go of genuine terror. It's hard to feel because one thing that I got from Jamie Lee's performance is she has never felt safe. You see the way that she bunkers down her house. She is preparing for battle constantly, and I think you even mention it in the film that it's difficult to switch off that those patterns of fear.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sal, what about you? Do you have anything to add?
No, I agree with everything you guys are saying, and just like how you mentioned, everyone is just telling her to move on and get over it, and I feel like that's such a very real life thing. I think depending on whatever is giving you trauma, it could be the smallest thing or the biggest thing ever. Like with Laurie Strode, it's just like even in real life, everybody will be telling, and they won't have gone what you have gone through, and they're telling you to get over it or to get to get past it, and you are the person who has gone through that thing, whatever it may be, and it just seems like it's the most difficult thing ever. So I felt like that was handled really well in the film too.
I agree. Before we move on to our favorite scenes and moments, I just wanted to talk a little bit about how this film connects to the original. I've never seen it, so I'm asking you guys. There are a couple of things that I caught that seemed important, but since I have no point of reference, at one point in the movie, towards the end, she has a small revolver, and they zoomed in on that. Is that something from the original?
No, the only thing I can
Well,
think of is Dr. Loomis uses a revolver to shoot Michael in the first one.
Okay, is it the same gun?
I don't
it
think
could
so.
be.
Yeah.
It
Well, I
could
don't
be.
see.
I mean, I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying it could be. I'm
No,
not saying like
it's
definitely.
just the way they zoomed in on the gun. It just seemed like it was something important.
I think they were maybe just showing that it's the same type of gun that Loomis used because I can't imagine that after the whole situation went down that Loomis would be like, and by the way, here's a gun. See ya.
It's like, protect yourself, kid.
Protect yourself. He's coming out in 40 years.
Okay, so what about the basement or that her safe room? It seemed like it was more than just a safe room. Did something happen down there in the original Halloween?
That's not even her regular house,
Oh,
the original
okay.
Halloween.
Okay.
And there's nothing that happened in a basement.
No, that's
There's
all
a couple.
brand new.
There's a couple of things. There's two things. One of them was at the beginning, you actually see a scar on the side of Michael's neck, and you also see a hole on the side of his mask. And that's when she took a knitting needle and stabbed him in the neck. So they actually kept the detail of the hole in the mask, and actually they gave him a scar, which was cool.
Okay.
And his eye was damaged from
From
the wire hanger.
The coat hanger, yeah.
There was a
How is this
couple.
dude still walking around?
Well, the guy's like what, 6'2", 6'3"?
Yeah, no, he's a big guy.
So
I like the one moment, and I know James can. He'll know what I'm talking about when it's at the end in the finale when Laurie and Michael get into a fight and she's like thrown off off the
Oh,
balcony.
off the balcony. Yes, yes.
And then there's a shot where he sees her, and then the girls get his attention, and he looks away. Then he looks again, and she's gone. It's a great callback to the original film where the exact same things happen, but just
Yeah,
vice versa with the characters.
at the very end, yeah. So Manu, when we said that Dr. Loomis shot Michael,
mhm.
he shoots him 6 times, and he stumbles and falls off the balcony. And then they run, they look over, or sorry, he looks over, and you see Michael Myers on the grass, unconscious, just like Jamie Lee Curtis was unconscious or appeared to be.
Oh,
And then Dr. Loomis looks back at Jamie Lee Curtis, and she says something like, "Was that the boogeyman?" And he's like, "Yeah, as a matter of fact, it was." And then he looks back, and Michael's gone. And then in the exact same thing, Michael looked to hear the girls, and then he looked back, and Jamie Lee Curtis is gone. And that actually got a bit of a laugh in my theater because the people who had watched the original, they connected it.
So that was basically a parallel where the rules were reversed.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Um,
actually had a big applause for that moment in my
Okay.
theater.
Okay. All right.
uh,
Any
there was
any other?
also
Okay. Sorry. Carry on. Go ahead. Go ahead.
there's also a part in the movie when when Will Patton, the sheriff there, he's going through the house where Vicky and her boyfriend were killed, and
Yeah.
sees Vicky and she's sitting on a chair and there's like a ghost, sort of like a drape over her, so she looks a bit like a ghost.
Yeah, and he pulls it off her.
He pulls it off her. That was actually one of the kills that Michael did in the original movie, where uh, two of the main characters were banging, and then the guy goes and grabs a beer downstairs in the basement, and Michael kills him. And then Michael Myers puts on like a ghost sheet, and then goes up into to the bedroom where the guy's girlfriend is waiting, and he's just standing there looking like a ghost, and she's like, "Ooh, what are you doing? You gonna come fuck me?" and shit like that, and then he goes and kills her.
That's the actual dialogue too.
That's exactly it. I wrote the movie, by the way.
I'm more impressed with the voice than anything else.
There, there was a couple callback outs to some of the other movies. Like, for example, I told you about how Halloween 3 is one of my favorite Halloween movies. There's killer Halloween masks in that movie, and some of the kids in the neighborhood are wearing the exact same masks, Halloween masks, from Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
Okay. Oh, okay. That's cool.
And there's a bunch of
Well,
nods and
one of
stuff
my
like that.
favorites was towards the beginning of the film, where what's the main girl, the third generation girl? What's her name? The character?
Oh, the granddaughter,
Yeah.
Allison, I think.
Allison.
Oh
yeah.
yeah. Allison. She's just like in the original film. She's in class. She's looking out the window. And in the original film, it's the same thing with Lori, but she sees Michael. And in this one, she sees Lori outside. Oh, I thought that was
So-
a nice little touch.
Are you sure that's not Are you sure that's not from a Scary Movie when the girl looks out the window and she sees the guy in the scream mask and then he runs away?
Yeah. He's like,
Then he runs away.
Also, there's a moment where we see Michael killing his sister, the first kill, his first kill as a 6-year-old or whatever he was.
Oh yeah, there's a
that's like
flashback.
direct footage.
That's
Direct
from the
footage.
original, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's,
okay.
that's why it looked. That's why it looked so shitty.
Yeah, okay. No, I was asking because I was wondering if maybe they just made it look like that on purpose, or if it was actually from the original. If it was from I actually think that's a really nice touch that they put it. That in
My
there.
favorite part of that footage, even like, is that it's first person, and I like that he looks at his hand stabbing, and he doesn't
Yeah.
look at what he's actually doing. I've always loved that about that footage.
Well,
I actually-
initially,
I actually
in
didn't-
the
I didn't
original,
catch
she's
that.
like, "Oh, well." In the movie, he basically, I guess it's just because it was shot in first person, so it's a little weird. You probably have the cameraman sticking his arm forward, right?
Yeah.
But he goes and he sees his sister and she's naked. She's like, "Michael, what are you doing in here?" And then he starts stabbing her, and then she's rubbing her tits because she's spreading the blood all over her body.
Oh yeah.
So, but there's also the garage scene actually where Michael, when he makes it to the garage and he kills those two podcasters, the whole garage scene is almost like Halloween, The Return of Michael Myers, which was Halloween 4, where he goes to a garage and he kills a bunch of people, gets a new jumpsuit and stuff like that. So
I
there's a
really
bit of a
like that
callback
scene,
to
by
that.
the way. I actually
That was
really like
also
that
in the Rob Zombie reboot. He does that also. I believe that's at a garage or like a trucking.
Yeah, it's
like
a
a truck
trucking
stop.
stop.
Yeah, so that's a nice little nod to that too.
scene. Okay. All right, so,
There's a lot of there was a lot of stuff in this movie.
Okay, I mean, it seems like they really went out of their way to stuff them in there.
I think the soundtrack actually was probably the biggest nod to the original movie. They got John Carpenter back to do the score, so that was huge.
Yeah, I caught that. And he was with his son, right? His son.
It was
had
with his son and somebody else. I can't remember the name right now.
Okay. All right. So let's move into our favorite scenes and moments. James, what's your favorite scene from Halloween?
All right, so basically, let's be real. We all went there to see Michael Myers doing his shit, right? Like see him go to work and stuff like that. And that initial scene where he's going through the neighborhood and we're following him through houses and stuff like that. And there's that one lady where she's looking out the window and putting down the blinds, and he just stabs her through the throat. And there was just such ferocity in how he
love
did
that. I
And
love
he just
that.
took her face and he smashed it on the
No,
desk.
you know
I was
what
like, oh, shit.
you know what I love about that whole sequence is it's like you're looking at her through the window,
Yeah.
and she's on the phone, and then Michael goes around the house, and then she comes to the window, and she's looking out the window, and then Michael just shows up behind her. I love that whole sequence. It's just awesome.
I loved it. Now, I told you about I wanted to tell you about like my favorite part, and it was the part where, um, when what's the doctor's name there? Doctor Sartain,
Doctor
and
Sartain.
he's laying on the ground and he's looking up at Michael and he's like, "Say something."
Oh yeah, he's saying
and then
something.
say something. And then Michael just stomps on his face. And I actually liked it. He closed his eyes because he knew it was coming. Like there's a fraction of a second where you see him close his eyes, like, ah, fuck. And then he just stomps on his head and his head just explodes like a fucking watermelon.
Yo,
I was in the
that's
theater with some of my friends and I fucking cackled out loud. Like I laughed. And my friend looks at me and literally out loud she goes, "You're a fucking psychopath." Everybody in the theater laughed even louder.
Yo, that is a great moment though. I'm sorry, like it sucks to say, but yo, it's
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah, I love the continuity they kept that Michael has this ridiculous strength.
right. Like how strong do you have to be able to pop somebody's head with just the bottom of your boot?
I know.
Uh, yeah, he probably stole the boots off of that mechanic he got it from.
Yeah. Sal, what about you? What are your favorite season moments?
Um, so I was trying to think about this in the whole film, but I really have to say the that entire scene where Lori is like checking all the rooms in the house,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
she has to, and then she like those
Yeah.
she has those slide down like heavy duty doors.
Yeah. So you
That
can't
was
sneak
so
back.
intense, and just like she's going room to room, and you're kind of following her through, checking the corners, and even that last room with the mannequins and the closet,
Yeah.
and it's a nice callback to the closet scene from the original film.
Mhm.
But yeah, I just thought that was really well done and just very intense. And I just, I kept wondering what somebody, we talk about Michael and he's like this, this brute force, but I don't know how smart he is. Like, whenever he heard those thuds, like, I wonder what he was thinking. Like, is this bitch is trying to trap me? But yeah,
That's a really good point. Yeah.
but yeah, I really love that part of the movie.
Okay. Any others you can think of?
I mean, yeah, I think we touched on a lot of other stuff. Like, I have to agree. When Michael gets his mask, I think
Oh,
that's
okay.
a
That was
really
great.
well done,
Yes.
huge moment in the film. I thought that was great.
Okay.
That was a very important moment, and it could have easily been so fucked up. They could have fucked it up, but it was so well done. You like he's back.
I really liked when they go see him in prison at the beginning, and they show the mask. Like they bring out the mask, and everybody around Michael, all of the other patients are all going crazy over the presence of this mask, and Michael is just stone cold. He doesn't even pay attention. He doesn't react to anything, but he knows that they have his mask.
Well, I think just the cinematography, the editing, the sound design, and just the intensity of the scene just ramping up. The guy yelling, say something," and then it just cuts to the music and the theme song. It was just perfect.
Yeah, even that theme, the opening theme with the pumpkin. That's yeah, and, yeah.
Well, Manu, as someone who's never seen majority of the films, how did you perceive that scene? What did you get from it?
When they busted out the mask.
Yeah, that whole mental institution opening. How did you perceive it as someone who's not really into this stuff?
I was like, this is a hell of a way to start a movie.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, all right. So again, they do a really good job of like setting the stage with the doctor and with the podcasters, telling you about the history of it all, and so I was trying to like pick up like as much info as I could because again, I hadn't seen the original. But it's a very intense sequence. And seeing like the dogs going off and everybody just going crazy around it, I was like, oh my god, what the hell did I just step into? But yeah, so that scene was one of my favorites. I also liked James mentioned it earlier. The scene with Vicky and the kid that she was
Oh yeah.
babysitting. That kid is
Babysitting?
really really Yeah, babysitting. That kid was great. And Michael, when he arrives in the city, when he arrives in the neighborhood, he has his mask on, and how he's just going around and killing all these random people for no reason. Apparently, like he walks into that woman's house and he just smashes her head in with a hammer. And then
Yeah.
and we talked about it. The other woman that he's kills standing in front of the mirror.
Well, remember after he kills the lady with the hammer, he walks by the baby and just looks at it and walks away.
Yes, yeah.
Michael has standards.
Now, Manu, you were asking about callbacks. That scene where he hammers a lady in the head with the hammer is actually a callback to the Halloween 2. He doesn't do it in Halloween 2. What he does is he walks into the house and there's a lady making a sandwich, just like in this one, and she walks away and he grabs the knife off of the cutting board, which is what he does in this one. And then she comes back and she's wondering why her bologna sandwich is covered in blood. But in this one, he goes and he kills the lady.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Also, I liked when Allison escapes the cop car. When she gets out of it after being trapped in the back seat with Michael, that poor girl. Like, just imagine being stuck in the back of a car with this madman, and he could have woken up at any moment. So the scene where she's finally able to get away and she's running through the trees, and then you have that really great score that kicks in as it follows her, really up close. I really like that moment. And when Jamie Lee Curtis pops up behind Michael, and she's like, "Happy Halloween, motherfucker!" Like, she got mad cocky. She's like, "Happy Halloween." I liked how they finished off Michael, and that's kind of what I was asking.
But did they?
Obviously, but that's why I was asking if there was any callbacks to the first movie, because it seemed like that spot was very important to. But I suppose that it was because it was the trap.
Yeah, it was just a trap.
Okay.
If anything, because Halloween 2 takes place like half an hour after the first one. So Halloween
really?
1 and 2 actually go hand in hand with one another, right? If you watch them that way.
Mm-hmm.
So in the second one, Michael actually dies in the second one, right? But then they really pushed the writers to make it that he didn't die. And he died by fire in the second one.
So kind of like the same thing here.
Exactly.
Okay. Real quick, before we move on to the cinematography, is there a Halloween movie that takes place in space?
No. This is the
No,
one series where they never go to space. As Jay said, I said this is the one series where they don't go to space, right? Because you got Leprechaun in space, you got fucking Jason in space, you got even Critters in space, but they never went to space with Michael Myers.
So there's no Michael Myers in space.
No.
That'd be so. I mean, it was ridiculous when they did it with Jason, but yeah, that'd be so ridiculous. But, yeah, he's always been the guy with the knife, just chasing people around a neighborhood. It's never been anything next level.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right, so let's talk about the cinematography. James, get us started.
In terms of cinematography, I think, it's very serviceable, but I think this one just raised it up a little bit of a notch because it replicated a lot of angles and a lot of moments from the original movie. So it banked on the viewers' knowledge of the original one. So for example, it focused on closet doors, or focusing down like a set of stairs, or up a set of stairs, or even just over the balcony, like earlier Sal and I were talking about when Laurie flies over the balcony. And, a lot of shots of, stuff happening in the background, like that mechanic being killed in the garage, right? So the movie really focused on that. And one thing I really did appreciate was, like Sal said, this was probably one of the movies where Michael is without his mask for the longest, unless you can count Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, which they full on show his face in those movies. And I think that's a huge mistake. You don't want to show the face. You can maybe show the side of his face, maybe, and stuff like that. But like they did here, this one they did a really good job of not showing his face. I think that is supremely important when dealing with this character, because the character is supposed to be sort of like a blank canvas. Like he's empty. He's just a shape. That's why they call him the shape, right? He's just you watch him and you're like, what's his motivation? What's this? And it's like he doesn't have a motivation. It's just he needs to kill. He needs to do this or whatnot. So keeping him sort of hidden, even though he didn't have his mask, was very important, and they did a good job with that.
Okay.
They almost hinted at it, like, oh, are we going to show it? Are we going to show it? No.
Okay. Sal, what about you?
Yeah, so I have to once again echo everything James said, especially with the teasing of Michael's face. I thought that was great, and there were some parts where he's just blurry, or you're just about to see it, and the camera cuts to something else, or he's about to turn his head. Um, but I thought that one of the best scenes with the cinematography was when that after Allison rejects the fat friend guy, I forget his name, so that's what he's going to get called.
The fat
Uh,
friend guy? Poor
yeah,
dude,
fat friend.
man.
But he's just stuck in the middle of there, and in the middle of that yard, and every time somebody moves in the yard, the motion sensors go off and the lights come on. And I just thought the and I know editing is involved with this, but yeah, the cutting back and forth between shots where you see Michael, or it just focuses on the kid, and where he's looking around. Other than that, there's I think Manu mentioned the scene where the Allison is running through the woods. I think that is very well shot, and for the most part, the film is very well shot. Great composition. I can't, for the life of me, recall anything inventive with the camera movement, unless somebody has something to add in that part.
Well, there was like the one shots following Michael, through to the garage and then through into the house, and
Very
initially,
true.
but they weren't going to milk that one for like every kill in the movie, right? So
No, they couldn't.
Those were great though.
Although
Like
they
where
probably would have liked to try.
Yeah, those were great. Like the one where they just follow him for the longest, and like when he kills that woman in the window, how it's just on the window for a couple
the whole
minutes.
time.
Yeah, the whole
Yeah.
time. Yep. That's so true. That's so true.
Well, that one's a continuation, like because it comes from he's in that neighborhood.
Mhm.
He takes the hammer. He goes inside, beats the lady with the hammer. Then we follow him, and like you see this black couple are leaving a Halloween party, and the lady kind of looks at Michael weird, and then she gets in the car, and then we follow Michael up the porch, and it focuses on the window, and then it's on the window for a while until he stabs that lady through the throat. So it's a really long take.
Yeah.
Both of you, I thought the cinematography was really good. Especially, we got a lot of like iconic shots of Jason, like when he puts on the mask for the first time. I think that's such a great shot. I mentioned earlier when we have Allison running through the forest after getting away from Michael. I think that's also there's some great cinematography as she's running through the forest. Um, yeah. The cinematography is good. It's not great. It's not going to, change the world in any way, shape, or form. But I thought it was better than average, and I think you guys agree with me, right?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay. Let's talk about the score. James.
You know what? I just started getting into vinyls and records, and this was the first one I bought. So I got the new John Carpenter score for this movie. I got it in the mail the other day. I didn't realize how expensive a hobby it was once you realize all the equipment you got to buy. I'm like, what? I got to buy brushes. I got to clean this shit. I got to buy new paper sleeves to make sure there's no static electricity. But you see they're doing amazing stuff with vinyls these days, especially with movie soundtracks. So I thought it was appropriate for John Carpenter's return to movie scoring to be maybe my first one, especially since they were in limited supply. So I love John Carpenter's scores. They're very unique. They're not for everybody, but I love the simplicity. I love the almost the 80s aesthetic that he brings to it as well. So I think it was very sort of apropos to bring him back, and it sort of legitimized how serious they were about making this a good movie. I loved it.
Yeah. Sal, what about you?
Um, at first, other than the opening, I thought that the film I thought that the score wasn't all that great, other than the opening. And then once it got to the first time he puts on the mask, I thought it was phenomenal. And one of my favorite moments with the score um, was that once again that moment that Manu mentioned where Allison is running through the woods just outside of Laurie's house. I thought that the score picked up really well in that moment. I think it was just like this nice little pounding synthesizer kind of stuff and bringing that 80s vibe into the film. But yeah, I just thought that from it was a little bit in the beginning where I just felt it was just quieter, maybe it was just holding back until the later half of the film. But once it got there, it really got there.
I agree. Actually, I was going to say the same thing. From the moment that he puts on the mask, it's not just the score that gets better. It feels like this is when the movie really starts. Like this is really the beginning of it all. And then they do some really interesting things with the score. And yeah, I agree. I was going to say that again. When Allison is running through the forest, the score in that scene is just brilliantly top notch. And again, even me who's never seen one of these movies, everybody knows that legendary Halloween theme. And hearing it at the beginning of the movie, especially the way that it was edited with the opening scene in that prison, it just gets you like it just sucks you right into the proceedings, and you're just ready to go on this mayhem with Michael Myers. Uh, there's one thing we didn't mention. What did you guys think about the podcasters?
They were good. You know
Oh,
what? Actually, one of them, I thought the girl was cute, but but the guy, I don't know. Do any of you guys watch the show Vikings?
I haven't yet, but it's on the list.
Okay, the guy is one of the characters from Vikings, and he was one of my favorite characters until something happened to him. But it was actually nice to see him in that movie. And
Yeah.
that was my personal connection to it. They did
Okay.
their jobs well in terms of being podcasters in the movie for about what 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, maybe less, but I did like both of their deaths in the gas station bathroom. Like God damn, like how you gonna die in a gas station bathroom like that?
Especially on the shitter.
Right, right. Oh man, and this is really cool shot of I think it's Ryan Reese. No, not Ryan. It's Jefferson Hall. I think his name is. When he's on the floor, and he's not dead yet, but he can hear Michael killing Dana. And there's this quick shot of him, and he just looks so helpless because he just got his head bashed against the stalled wall and
Yeah,
just tossed away as if he were nothing. And you're like, and it's yeah, that scene is very it's a very
it's
ridiculously
effective.
it's a very effective scene. Thank you, James.
Oh.
Thank you, James. Okay, let's give our final thoughts on Halloween, and let people get away from us and enjoy their nights. James, why don't you give us your final closing thoughts on Halloween?
I think it's a worthy follow up to the original. I think it honors the legacy. And I don't know if you guys saw that I had put a poll on Twitter where I said when you're creating a legacy film like this, whether let's say it was a Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th or hell, even Star Wars and all these other massive franchises where the sole creator is no longer involved in it. So, like for example, this movie, is it the filmmaker's responsibility to make sure that it ends open-ended or with a little bit of ambiguity, or are they allowed to end it? And I think, in my opinion, I think it's their responsibility to at least leave it a little ambiguity to keep it open because it's not necessarily their franchise. And I think this movie did a good job of potentially ending it, but at the same time leaving just a little bit of ambiguity to keep it going. I'm a little bit split on whether or not I want to see it keep it going because I feel like if this is the end, it ends perfectly. But I also don't want to spend the next 40 years of my life without another Halloween movie.
Sal, what about you?
Yeah, so I think I enjoyed this movie a lot more than I was initially thinking before the pod. But I do still feel like there's something kind of missing there, but I don't quite know if that's me kind of putting my hype on the film. But I do want to give it another chance on a rewatch to see if I could make a final assessment on that. But all in all, I think this is a good movie, especially a great one for a long time Halloween fans, and it does really honor the legacy, like James said. And I mean, I wouldn't be 100%, fine with, like James was talking about, fine with this being the last hurrah, even though I'm, kind of like jaded with the whole franchise thing in general. But yeah, if you were to tell me this is it, I'd be like, damn, no more?
He said no more. Yeah, again, I'm not a fan of this franchise. I'm typically not a fan of slasher films in general, but I really, really enjoyed this movie. I really did. I thought that the kills were great. I thought that Michael is such a great antagonist. I thought that Jamie Lee Curtis was on point. I liked how the tension was used. I just like how danger always seemed to be at every corner. And again, maybe it's due to the fact that I don't tend to watch these movies, but I was surprised by a lot of the things. We didn't mention it, but I do like that gas station scene even before, as this woman is trying to get the keys, and in the background you can see Michael just beating this car
This guy in the
repairman.
back?
Yeah. In the
Oh
back,
yeah, he's just like like out of focus in the
yeah, in the
back.
back, and he's just like wailing on this guy, and it's like I just love that, and like
You gotta make sure he's dead.
you gotta make sure. So I really enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I would, and I have to say that not like I would like to see more from this director, and a sequel to this, and I will definitely go out and find the originals and definitely check, well, at least the original. I'll definitely give the original a shot.
I think they're all worth watching. Like,
Even 4, 5, and 6, I've never seen them, but I've heard very horrible things about 4, 5, and 6.
they're horrible in terms of they're not great movies, but they do have that 80s charm to them, which makes it worth, giving them a go.
See, a lot of people
Once.
talk to me about that 80s charm. I have no idea what that is. I
don't
no
know.
clue what that is, man. It just
80s
seems
charm.
like it's one of those things that sounds nice, like.
I'll say one more thing too. Like I was saying earlier, like I'm kind of jaded with franchises, but in the midst of everything being a read this and a read that and everything banking on nostalgia, this was one of the better films I've seen in recent years that was banking purely on nostalgia. And I don't think that it does. It does definitely in the marketing, but I think it does even. There's definitely a nostalgia bait in the film, but I think it also there's plenty of new and great things to hold on to. So I think this is one of the better things of like the rehashes and the reboots in recent years.
Okay, I actually agree with that. I appreciate that. James, do you have anything to add before we get off the air?
No, that's about it. I think we've all said our bits and pieces, and if some of our viewers or listeners haven't seen it, like, what are you waiting for? Like, get out there, go see it. Especially Halloween's tomorrow.
So, James, why don't you go ahead and drop your ad?
All right, so you can reach me on Twitter at my screen name right now. What is it? I don't even remember what it is. McReady is McReady for Halloween. So it's at mass_critical. That's MAS_CRITICAL. If you like, I don't know. How would you describe my Twitter account?
A lot of polls.
There's a lot of polls lately. But if you like hot button topics and a lot of heady trollage, then go ahead and follow me.
You can say that again about the trollage. But every group needs a troll, so I guess you're ours.
You know what? I'm the troll that, like, if you talking stupid shit, I'm gonna come back at you with stupid shit too.
Facts.
You've been warned. Sal, what about you?
My name is Sal, and then the ad is Salazar 2049, SALAZAR 2049, and I mean, yeah, if you're looking for, I guess, your average film discussion or some witty memes, I'm your guy.
You can say that again. And you can reach me at ManUnited0710 on Twitter. You can reach the Film Exiles at the Film Exiles on Twitter. You can reach us at our Gmail address, the Film Exiles at Gmail address. We are on Vero. We are on Instagram. We are on Pinterest. We are on YouTube. So please give us a follow, give us a like, and reach out to us. Talk to us, give us feedback, and let us know what topics you would like us to talk about, what films you would like for us to review. We are here for you. Actually, no, we're here for us because we like the sound of our own voices. Before we go, I would like to add that today, Stemat, is that how we pronounce it? Or is it Stemot?
If you don't know who we're talking about, he has the best AV on Twitter.
He really does, and he has the best gifts, the best memes out there. He's a very creative and very great follow. He is joining the ranks of the Exiles. I don't know if or when we'll get him on the pod, but we are trying. I just wanted to make sure that we give him a warm exiled welcome, if that's even a thing.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
He's a hot button guy.
Oh,
Hot button guy.
he's awesome, and our next episode will be our review of A Star Is Born with myself, Joy, Millennial Mike, and Gray from Not the Popular Opinion blog. It's a great discussion on the film that we all enjoyed, and I really hope that all of you take the time to check it out. So with that, we are going to get off the air and let you guys go out and enjoy your Halloween. Happy Halloween to everybody, and be safe out there. And thank you, Sal, and thank you, James, for being on with me tonight.
No problem.
Yeah, no problem.
Great. Good night,
Take it easy,
fellas.
guys.
Happy Halloween.